All right, rock and roll. Welcome to the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. I am your host, John, for this enchanting little foray into the world of politics. Welcome one and welcome all, sinner and saint, friend and foe. We all got a seat at the table. Welcome, y'all. Wonderful day. It is tax day. Not exactly the highlight of anybody's calendar year, but we're going to make it through. We shall see what happens with the current administration and the political battles that lie ahead with the budget. But I went out with my parents today, and as anybody who's listened to the show, maybe more than once, they are rascals. They absolutely are rascals. I love them, but man, they get into hijinks. They just find hijinks, right? My dad, he's in the throes of Alzheimer's, which is a real difficult situation. And for anybody who hasn't dealt with it, count your lucky stars. We all got to go one way or another. That is definitely a challenge, to say the least. And so I take my parents, we go we go pick up their taxes, we go through everything. My mom, sharp as a nail, figures it all out. I'm looking at it, whatever. And then we head out, and we go to Olive Garden. Now, my dad doesn't know my name. He doesn't know where the trash is, but he knows he loves Olive Garden. So we like to go there once or twice a month just because he enjoys being there, right? Doesn't know what he wants to order, doesn't anything, but he knows he loves Olive Garden, okay? I guess there's an allure of free breadsticks, okay? I guess that's just what it is. So we go there and we're sitting at a table, and it's a midday on a weekday, Monday. And there are these two ladies about 5 tables over. And have you ever been in a restaurant and somebody is a loud talker? I mean, we know the Seinfeld office episode where there's a soft talker and you couldn't hear it. You're always straining, like, what? Well, this person, this human being here came with a megaphone in their voice box. I heard all about her kid at school. I heard about the girl at work who's sleeping with the coworker. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is just bloody crazy, right? And my mom and dad, they are resolute. When you get older, let me give you a little preview of what the future is, right? When you get older and you sit down to eat, you don't care if the restaurant's on goddamn fire, right? That fork is going into that bowl and it's going to your mouth. Because at the end of the day, you got food and you're going to eat. And I don't care, come hell or high water, that food is going in my stomach. Because I ordered it, I picked it, I chose it, waiter brought it, and I'm going to eat it. So my parents, they are just all in on it, right? They are just, right? It's always so cute. They say they're not hungry. Let me tell you something. You take your hand, you put it over there, comes back a stump. I'm telling you right now. They're not big eaters, but man, when they lock in and load, it's like Maverick and Top Gun. Lock and load, boom, explode. So I'm over here and I'm eating my meal, and I'm listening to this lady 5 tables over talk about just insane stuff going on in her life. Like, we all have stuff. But honey, we don't need to share it like it's Bernie Sanders at a rally in downtown LA with the megaphone. And then Fred slept with Sarah. And then Fred left his disgusting stuff in the microwave. And I was like, oh my God, this poor Fred guy, And then she's like, I don't know about my husband. And I was like, oh man, this is starting to get a little crazy. I think he has dysfunction. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, Jesus. My parents are still eating. They are eating like there is not a care in the world. Like they are on a pleasure cruise, right? I got a great friend. His name is Doug. He has a beautiful wife, and they go on cruises all the time. And he says, when you're on a cruise, you don't care about nothing. To me, it's just a prison on water, but okay. Some people dig it. Well, this lady was like that. Not a care in the world. I'm going to just tell everybody all my stuff. And I'm like, wow, man. Right? And I literally listened to that for 20 minutes. And I am so discombobulated. Yes, that's actually a word. That I am askew. Now, at the Olive Garden, they got these little cute things. I'm sure everybody else. I'm a tech bro now. Okay. Super producer Stacy has formed me into a tech bro. Now, it's not like Michelangelo with a piece of stone or marble crafting it into something beautiful. She has more had to work with like Play Doh. And it actually comes out still, it starts as a clump and then it's a little smaller clump, but it's still a clump, right? It's nothing functional, right? But she tries. You can only do what you got to work with, right? Can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, I think is the saying. So I am askew. I'm like, oh my God, I got to hear this lady's life, right? So we get done with the meal and they got those little things at the end. You can play games with them. You can order an extra dessert or whatever, but you can also pay. That's exactly what they do. They don't want the waiters anymore dealing with the money, right? At these chains. You go to Chili's, you go to Applebee's, okay. So my mom has a gift card. Okay. And she hands it to me. Now, this gift card, I think, has $50 on it, right? Our meal comes out to like $42. So I put the gift card in and it goes, okay, scanned. Okay, now what do you want to leave as a tip? It accepted it for that. And I put, okay, all the way up to $50, right? I'm going to give an $8 tip. I believe in tipping waiters and waitresses. They got a really tough job. I think we should definitely support them. It's not easy. It is definitely not easy what they do. And I did it and it says limit over. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Now I try to put the card back in and nothing will happen. I tried this 4 or 5 times. Now my mom's getting a little anxious. She's looking at the card. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? So I get up and I go, I find the waiter. We go and he slips the card and he goes, there's nothing on it. I go, but on this table, it said we had actually paid the $42 and how much tip. And he goes, I'm not showing anything in the system. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. So I said, okay. I go back to my mom and I go, there's nothing on this card. She goes, how's that? She goes, we just used it last week or 2 weeks ago. It had $100. We used 50. It should be 50 on. I go, I don't know, Mom. I don't know. And now I'm starting to realize the machine ate the money. Take the new card over there. And I asked him, I said, man, are you sure the machine didn't eat the money? And I don't know if he just saw an extra $50 tip, hey, man, whatever. But he said no. So we got the new card, everything worked. And then I'm thinking to myself, I really should raise a stink. My mom's not saying anything. She's being cool. She's being way cool. And my dad's a handful. And I said, all right. We walk out and I'm thinking to myself, that guy just scammed me for $50. Just scammed me. Well done, mister. Well done. Man, I guess he's leaving his shift early, right? So all I could say is if you have one of those gift cards and you have one of those kiosks at the end, find out how much is on the gift card first, because obviously I went a couple cents over what the gift card was and it just sucked all the money out. And then, when you go talk to somebody in a restaurant, nobody knows anything. That's the manager. He's not here yet. He comes in at 6. Yeah. Okay. Whatever you say. All right. We're off and running. We're going to burn this mother effer down. That's what we're going to do today. Taking no prisoners, telling no lies. Let's talk about the first story today. Biggest story on Monday. The Trump administration is fighting Harvard University. And this is getting really serious, folks. Trump administration on Friday announced it was going to freeze $2.2 billion in multi-year grants and $60 million in multi-year contract value at Harvard University after the school said it would not follow policy demands by the Trump administration. Earlier Monday, Harvard said it would reject the Trump's administration's demands for policy changes at the school. Now, Trump is not messing around here. He is going for the throat here, right? Harvard issued a statement after the withdrawal of funds, says that for the government to retreat from these partnerships now risks not only the health and well-being of millions of individuals, nice, there you go, but also the economic security and vitality of our nation. The university last week received a letter from the federal task force outlining additional policy demands that will, quote unquote, maintain Harvard's financial relationship with the federal government. They are literally threatening Harvard, if you don't do what we want, we're going to pull the money. Straight up. Okay? Money that's already been allotted by Congress. We've talked about this with USAID and the Department of Education. Congress allotted that money, and then Trump just said, I'm not going to pay it. I'm just going to put it in a pot. I'm going to put it in my backyard. I'm going to build another gold toilet. I'm going to shoot another pee video in Moscow. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Harvard, their president, Alan Garber, issued a statement, says we have informed the administration through our legal counsel that we will not accept this proposed agreement. The Trump administration has threatened numerous colleges, and they've all bent the knee for him. Columbia University was threatened with $400 million. Brown University was threatened. They capitulated. And basically what Trump and the administration is doing, and I'm going to give the devil his due, it's goddamn brilliant, right? So you can't have hate speech. You can't. Now, colleges are typically an expression of free ideas. And as we've seen in the last 2 years with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, there is a lot of advocates, there is a lot of protesters, whatever you want to term them, who have been outlining and advocating against the use of force that Israel is using on innocent women and children in the Gaza Strip, right? So they're saying, quote unquote, Israel's doing some bad things. Well, Israel is a country, but it is a faith-based country, right? We align them with the Jewish religion, right? So now, and this is smart, they're saying anybody who is against Israel is against Judaism, they're anti-Semitic, that is hate speech. They're using that lever. How do all those Palestinians in Dearborn, Michigan feel now that they voted for Trump? How you doing now? Because they're going to Brown, they're going to Columbia, they're going to Harvard, they're coming to you. Straight up, right? This is the first time a university has stood up. Now, I applaud them for what they do. Among the mandates in the administration's letter were the elimination of Harvard's diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. That's for minorities, women, and people who align in a different sexual orientation or whatever it is. People who want to be people. But that should be a decision that the university makes. Right? Banning, Harvard's diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, banning masks at campus protest. They don't want you to wear a mask. And I saw that at the Bernie rally because they want facial recognition so they can track you. It's straight up what it is. They're going to find you. And you think they can't? Tell that to the 1,600 people who got convicted on the January 6th riot. A lot of them had masks on. Remember, COVID was still going on. We were in the throes of that. They wore masks and we still found them. That is how good the government is with, or law enforcement. Let's call it law enforcement, DOJ, whatever. Merit-based hiring, admission reforms, and wait for this, reducing the power of the faculty. Now, this is probably because most faculty is liberal. They're about free expression, free ideas, right? I wonder if we're going to see these kind of things come down at the University of Alabama. Maybe Notre Dame, maybe not, right? the administration, right, what I'm telling you here, released a statement after Harvard's, says the President Trump is working to make higher education great again. You can do that by cutting funding. That really works well. And ending unchecked anti-Semitism. Yeah. So they've indicated that they are going to cut off funds very, very quickly here. The demands in the administration's earlier letter also include full cooperation with the Department of Homeland Security. Got somebody protesting. Homeland Security, as we all know, enforces immigration policy. Got somebody protesting. They're a student. See you later. Don't got time for you. You're not going to be in America. So America can only be protest. We can only have protests by American citizens. Oh, wait, no, John, that's not exactly right, because they're trying to end birthright citizenship. Like those people aren't Americans. You know, you cut away at free speech. You just chop it a little. You chop it a little. You chop it a little. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a reason America's great. Because I do believe, because we do have free speech, because we have independent ideas. Why do you think China is never, well, let me rephrase this. Why was China never going to catch us? Because they live in a censorship society. Free ideas, things outside the norm. That's what science is. Speculating, talking about different ideas. I know most people here aren't going to understand what I'm going to say, but the great scientist Bob Lazar, he is a gentleman who said he worked at Area 51, he worked on alien spacecraft, but he talked about his journey, and he's a renowned, I don't know, astrophysicist, physicist, whatever. I don't know what his official title, but he worked at Los Alamos, he worked at Area 51. And he talked about the problem with the federal government in dealing with, and I'm not validating it. I believe it. I believe in aliens, whatever. Really? Are you going to tell me the people in the Trump administration are the same as us? That they got flesh and blood? They're those reptilian ones. I'm telling you, because they're cold-hearted son of a bitches. But I digress. What Bob Lazar said is, they're trying to reverse engineer all these spacecraft and whatever. And he said the problem is, you have somebody dealing with metals. You have somebody else dealing with propulsion, and they never interact. And he said science only advances. It only makes discoveries, for the most part, when you have free expression of ideas. He said that on the Joe Rogan show. When people can talk, they can speculate, they can talk, and without fear of retribution. Right. And he said he thought that was the big impediment to why the government wasn't making, or whoever it is, wasn't making more progress in discovering how these alien craft work. He said because everybody had a separate view. He said there's 10 different people or 10 different crews working on it, but they never interact. They can never share. All right. Same thing in college, right? If you don't have free expression of ideas, which the Chinese don't, which authoritarians don't, then you can't really push science. Yeah, you can learn. And that's why the Chinese are notorious for doing espionage, industrial espionage, because they don't really have that creative firepower that we do. And they never will. Well, maybe they will now when they take over Taiwan, right? Harvard right here is standing for something. They are standing for an ideal. And I'll tell you a story. I went to go see Bernie. There you go, Bernie. I went to go see Bernie last week in downtown LA, and there was a UCLA booth. And it was, I guess, faculty, somebody in the administration, whatever. And they were like, keep free speech going. And I was like, what does that mean? And they talked about Columbia kowtowing down and giving in to suppressing students' rights in the name of keeping that $400 million in grants. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And she says, well, we're going to protest. And I said, okay, I agree. I'm down with that. I'll speak about that on my podcast. I said, but what else are you going to do? And they said, well, we're not going to take that. And I said, well, like, what choice do you have? And she said, well, I'm just not going to be around for that kind of thing if they cut our funding and they suppress our First Amendment rights. And I go, those decisions are made by people who are sitting on the beach in Malibu right now. They're having a cocktail in Westwood, right? They're having dinner in Bel Air. It's not us. We all got a boss. Sometimes we agree with them, sometimes we don't. But at the end of the day, it's what it is. Hopefully those people who actually are going to make the decision if they come after UCLA, which I don't know, gets a lot of federal money, gets a lot of state money. We shall see how that all works out. At the end of the day, they want it both ways. They want everybody to get in. And like I say, society, free speech gets chopped away slowly but surely. It's not one fell swoop. It's like the Ronins say, death by 1,000 cuts. All right. We've had quite a few so far in less than 3 months. Even Snoopy's it's just timing out. Snoopy doesn't even want to deal with it today. All right. Let's talk about the next story. We got the White House and the El Salvadoran president. Oh, God bless him. Saying Kilmar Garcia will not be returned. Now, Trump, after the Supreme Court ruling a couple days ago, said, if the Supreme Court says I got to return the guy, I'll return him. Whoops. Guess we made another U-turn, right? Now, the White House is saying it's up to El Salvador, and the El Salvadorian president, Bukele, will not release this terrorist. Now, at the end of the day, the Trump administration in every court filing in the United States has admitted it was an administrative error. They are not listing on any court documents that he is a terrorist. Yeah, I know J.D. Vance, childless cat lady, that mother effer, the guy I'm going to take over Greenland, we're going to annex Canada, that stupid son of a bitch, that guy? Yeah, he says he's part of MS-13. There's no evidence of it. Trust me, if there was any evidence of it, if there was people in MS-13 who knew this guy, you'd see him on Fox News tonight. This just in. I haven't seen him. You'd see him on Newsmax. If this guy was in a gang, I'd see cops. I'd see members of the gang. They're on some type of show saying, yeah, me and homie used to run fentanyl. Me and homie used to do. You'd see it. You know what? You don't see it. You know why? Because the guy wasn't a goddamn gang member. It was an administrative error. At the end of the day, admit the error. And let's just turn it back. Hello? What are you going to do? Now, supposedly only the El Salvadoran president can let him go. And he says, I'm not going to release a terrorist. Well, where's the evidence he's a terrorist? Zero. All right. Let's get to probably our last story of the night. What are we going to do here? I'm not even going to go into that story because I will literally do projectile vomiting into the screen. All right. So we all know last week when Donald Trump was going to put these draconian tariffs on, and then all of a sudden, 2 days later, he had a 90-day pause. 3 hours before the pause, he said, time to buy stock. And I've seen this floating around for the last 4 or 5 days. I mean, how are you going to prove it, right? I saw Elizabeth Warren this weekend on the Sunday news shows, and she goes, we've got to have the SEC investigate this and see about the insider trading. I'm like, I applaud her. I love Elizabeth Warren. That's a strong woman. I supported her for president. That's how much I like that lady. But at the end of the day, she's goddamn crazy. She thinks the SEC is going to investigate this administration. Oh, hey, this just in. SEC funding got cut. Hey, doesn't anybody remember, including Elizabeth Warren, who was around, the 2008 bank collapse and nobody went to jail except one mid-level manager? You want to see how corrupt it is? You watch The Big Short. Brilliant movie. Michael Lewis book. Watch that movie. See how goddamn corrupt it all was. And then how we, as taxpayers, had to bail those son of a bitches out. Yeah, that just happened, right? But there is an angel on the horizon, folks, right? Seems like it's New York attorney Letitia James. How many convictions, how many felony convictions did she get on Trump in that little business fraud trial? What, 45, 43? I don't know. There's so many felony convictions, I lose track. Corrupt son of a bitches. Um, she's looking into this potential insider trading. Now, she has no link to the federal government, so they can't quash her little investigation. Okay? Yeah. She's wondering about this 90-day pause, Trump's little tweet on True Social about buy stocks. Now, at the end of the day, I am going to say I understand the president trying to get people to buy stocks. Okay? Great friend of mine, one of the best people I ever met, Bill. Him and I have talked stocks for 20 years. Okay? Sometimes we make good plays, sometimes we don't, right? Bill's pretty smart. He's one of those guys, ride it out. So am I. You know, my Blockbuster stock is going to come back. I'm telling you right now, right? But one of the things that happened here was, you know, we hear it's a great time to buy when the market's low. You don't know when the market's low, right? But we think, okay, maybe it is. My little brother tells me he bought at the dip. You know, everybody's a smart guy. Okay. I sold my entire portfolio. 3 days before Liberation Day, I said, I had enough, man. I ain't doing this suicide mission. You want a suicide mission? You go over into Ukraine. You do your thing there, right? But now we have reporting out of New York that our favorite knucklehead, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I really, on some level, I want a DNA check because I am not sure if she is man or woman. Because you know what? I don't think she is. Because I'm telling you, you got to be human to be that, right? Cold-hearted bitch. Um, she bought after Trump's tweet and before we knew about the pause, that small window, she bought between $21,000 and $315,000 worth of assorted tech stocks. Then he announced the pause and they went up considerably. Nothing to see there. I'm sure Marjorie had no information. Not a bit. You know, you got a cabinet with 13 billionaires. One thing I know about people with money, I'm not one of them. Let's get that out of the way. Is people with money always want to find a way to make more money, make their money work. You know, I did a story, I don't know, a month or two ago, and I was talking about how the billionaires expanded their wealth exponentially when Bush crashed the market in 2008. You could buy stock, any stock. You almost couldn't miss. It was literally like shooting fish in a barrel. You had stocks like Sands, Venetian Sands, that was $1. It ended up going up to, I think, 75 or 80 bucks in 2 years. I mean, you really almost couldn't miss. I bought Cirrus stock. I bought it for 10 cents a share. It went to $7. Now, I sold before then. Okay. But like I said, Bill and I were both in on that. We got lucky. Okay. It wasn't like we made enough money. I mean, you know, I know you look at me and say, wow, he's got money to go along with his looks. No, I just got the looks. 0 for 2 on that count, John. All right. I hope Letitia James can find some justice. I really do wish that some of these son of a bitches would be held accountable for the greed and the financial abuses they're doing. But we can hope. We can hope. And hopefully in 3 years, 3.5 years, Jesus Christ, almost 4 years, we'll get an administration that might put some teeth into the SEC and actually go after these son of a guns. All right. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. I love y'all. We're in this together. I need you. We need each other. I appreciate the new subscribers. It means a lot to me. I like the comments, even the trolls. They're all cool. And I just want to tell you, you stay safe, and I'll see you soon.